Wow. All right, we have a clip from Nat Geo. Take a look at One Strange Rock.
I really wish that everyone could see the world the way that I've had a chance to see it.
First, you look at it and really are wondering what it even is that you're seeing.
It's like I lived my whole life in a semi-dark room and somebody flipped on the lights. A living, breathing, working planet.
When you come back, all right, when you've come back down to earth and you've had this experience, you've been through this thing, this transformative ride, and you've seen the world for what it is, and then nobody else has, and you observe the rest of the world, and there's so much, maybe it's something as silly as flat earthers or whatever kind of ignorance that is pervasive out there that you see, and you go, guys, none of this matters. How do you handle what I imagine to be a very frustrating struggle internally? I've seen this. If only I could communicate to them that none of this matters. They don't need to fight over these things. What is that like? What is that frustration like?
I think it's actually the opposite. If you have had a magnificent meal, like a wonderful piece of black forest cake that is as rich and wonderful as food can be, that doesn't somehow mean that all the rest of the food that exists isn't worth eating, or that somehow you're disappointed by the rest of life. You've just been privy to a richness that improves who you are, understands how things can be. And in fact, you come back from space with a much more realistic and I think eternally optimistic view of the world. But also, when you're on the space station long enough to go partway around the solar system, you can watch the whole world swap ends of seasons. And I was on it for almost 6 months, so I watched winter and summer swap in the world, and it was like watching the world take one breath, watching it rejuvenate itself yet again, and it puts things in its proper perspective. So if someone wants to stand up and yell something that they don't understand at the top of their lungs, it just makes it really easy to ignore them because they're saying something nonsensical and they're not making the effort to try and understand.
One Strange Rock is kind of a good description for planet Earth.
It is, because it's against all odds. You know, I mean, the sun has these huge solar flares, and we've got some visuals of that in this one episode that talks about the shields around the Earth, the magnetic belts around the Earth that protect us from that insult of radiation and you know, things that can damage life. And so Earth is kind of in that Goldilocks zone. It's the right temperature. It's got the protective belts. And now, you know, it's time to count our blessings, you know, how lucky we are to exist here on the planet and to have the oxygen around us and the right temperature. And, you know, it's pretty good life we got going.
So we have to take control over evolution to even begin to think about getting somewhere else. And why would we want to do that? Because you have to look at the single most important picture ever taken. There is no picture humans have ever taken that's as important as this picture. So this is the ultimate selfie, right? This is Voyager. At 6 billion kilometers away, it turns around and it focuses on us. And that little white dot right there, that's all of us. Every single person that lives and has ever lived lives in that little white dot.
I'm in awe of the complexity, the web of life, and the web of, you know, creating oxygen and doing everything that the planet does effortlessly. Because I spent time in an ecosystem that I had to make the oxygen, I had to make the carbon dioxide and scrub it out and maintain the temperature. So I am in awe of what the planet can do, and this series will make everybody be in awe of planet Earth.
Yeah, from your viewpoint, it gives you a perspective that not many of us have on realizing how astounding Earth is.
I don't think it matters if you're there for a year, or you're there for a day. I mean, what, an hour, a minute, when you look out that window, just the overwhelmingly impressive beauty of it is something you can't be prepared for. And I love what Jane said about the head and the heart, because to me, that's what I felt when I was looking through the window, when I was experiencing Earth from space. It's like, yeah, I'm seeing it with my eyes. And I think through One Strange Rock, everyone has the opportunity to be reintroduced to our planet in a way that is just spectacular for sure. It presents the science, but it connects you in that way with your heart too. And you will walk away. I live on a planet and I'm an Earthling. And the decisions you make and the choices become different when you're thinking about that on a more regular basis.
It is one incredible planet. You sense that when you're out in space. My other 7 astronaut colleagues reflect the same thing. You know how lucky we are, all the things that had to come together to make life exist as we know it here on this, One Strange Rock now.
A recent find by astronomers using telescopes atop Mauna Kea has redefined the foundation upon which galaxies are built.
All right, a unique galaxy is making the case for the existence of dark matter, even though it barely has any. Now, astrophysicists don't know what dark matter is made of, but they do know there's a lot of it in the universe, and the consensus is that dark matter outnumbers ordinary matter in a galaxy by more than 5 to 1. But in a new report in the scientific journal Nature, some astrophysicists say they have found a galaxy that has 400 times less dark matter than expected.
Astronomers using Gemini and Keck observatory data encountered a galaxy that has almost no dark matter. That's a big deal because astronomers thought that the two go hand in hand. The idea was that galaxies started their lives as blobs of dark matter, then gas falls into the dark matter halos, the gas turns into stars, they slowly build up, and then you end up with a galaxy like the Milky Way. But this new find goes against what they thought all along.
So it's the biggest mystery, and we spend a lot of our telescope time, and many of our scientists use the telescope, are trying to measure the distribution of dark matter and what its characteristics are. Because this is a new, surprising result, it's a new clue into the nature of dark matter.
So tell me this, how could the discovery of a galaxy that's lacking dark matter help prove that dark matter actually exists?
Well, it's kind of a funny thing. It goes like this. Alternative theories about dark matter try to explain those effects by suggesting that dark matter is just an illusion that's caused by our lack of knowledge about how gravity works on very large scales. Now, if that's the case, it goes like this. Since all galaxies deal with gravity on very large scales, then all galaxies ought to show a dark matter signature. Here's a galaxy that does not show a dark matter signature, and because of that, that suggests that the non-dark matter models are incorrect, thus, sort of like coming at it backwards, proving that dark matter actually does exist.
Where do you start? So I think a big breakthrough for us actually came in a few months into the process when we started thinking about how we were going to tell the story, who was going to tell the story. And, traditionally in these kind of shows, you'll have somebody, like in the UK, we have Sir David Attenborough, who, everyone knows if his voice is on it, that's authenticity and that's expertise and that's knowledge. And so we were thinking, who could that person be? And then we suddenly thought it's not one person. It's actually, a select few who'd seen the Earth from space, who'd seen the bigger picture, and who had an understanding and had that they were transformed, if you like, by that experience, and they were able to convey that wonder about our strange rock with authenticity, and that was the thing that these guys brought to it, and I think that's been what's elevated this series into a new territory for everyone.
Strangest place in the whole universe might just be right here.
You've directed some of the most series about space and science and planet Earth.
Well, as a huge fan of National Geographic, since I was a young boy, as soon as I heard that they were trying to undertake something like this, me and Ari started talking about it, and it was very daunting because it was 10 hours on a celebration of the fragility of this Earth. and the beauty of this Earth, and how would we, figure out a way to put an emotional story into it? Because ultimately, we're storytellers. We both come from a science background. Ari is a neuroscientist, and I have some training in field biology, and we were able to sort of bring story into it and try to give the audience an emotional trip through all of this knowledge.
Discovering a flash of light in the universe that seemed to originate from a black hole in the Milky Way. Sagittarius A was photographed emitting the mysterious flare that grew to 75 times brighter than normal levels. The event was captured by a telescope near the summit of Mount Mauna Kea in Hawaii. Joining me now is Professor of Physics at Syracuse University, Duncan Brown. Professor Brown, thank you so much for joining us. So one of the primary characteristics of a black hole is that light cannot escape it. So when we say it lit up, what does that mean exactly?
Right. No light can escape a black hole. That's why it's black. So the light that the astronomers are seeing here is actually coming from hot gas surrounding the black hole, what astronomers call an accretion disk. It's matter from stars in the vicinity of the black hole that is falling towards the black hole, spinning around the black hole, and as it spins around, it heats up and then it emits light as it gets hot. So the light is not actually coming from the black hole itself. The light is coming from the material that is surrounding the black hole. If you've ever seen the movie Interstellar, there's a beautiful picture of an accretion disk around an imagined massive black hole. That's what's being seen here. It's this matter that's flaring up in the accretion disk.
So this is a totally known and understood phenomenon. There's nothing truly mysterious about it then.
There's nothing mysterious in the sense that we haven't seen light coming from a black hole, but we still don't really understand how these accretion disks work. There's a very small amount of light coming from the black hole at the center of our galaxy. Other black holes in the universe are much brighter. We can see them across the universe. They're known as quasars. But there's not that much light coming from our black hole, and our understanding of these accretion disks is fundamental to understanding what's going on near black holes and how they work. But we don't really fully understand them yet. So this flaring is an exciting observation because it might tell us something about how these disks work.
You can incentivize smells. You can incentivize movement. You're taking some pretty fundamental aspects of humanity, and there might be one or two ethical, moral implications to all this, which we might want to think about. Some people say, this is unnatural, this is dangerous, this is X, this is Y. We certainly have to consider the ethical, moral, legal implications of work that fundamentally alters life code. Why would anybody want to do this?
But there's nothing about it that is essentially dangerous, is that right?
No, the black hole is at the center of our galaxy. It's 26,000 light years away from us. Right. So this flaring actually happened 26,000 years ago.
That's mind-boggling to think about. Okay, so, given what we know about how fast light travels and the fact that this happened so long ago, what does that tell us? I mean, we don't even know if there's a black hole there right now in real time, correct?
Well, of course, we can't say what's going on now, but we know that these things last. Black holes of this size last a very long time. They last for billions of years. So I think it's pretty certain to say that 4 million solar mass black hole at the center of our galaxy is still there. The question is, what's happening as material goes in? Will it flare again? We've observed this accretion disk in all forms of light, from X-rays to radio waves. This flaring was observed in infrared light, and people have been training telescopes on the black hole during the summer to see if they can see any more evidence of this flaring and try and understand what's going on. So the black hole is still there. The disk itself is variable, and that variability, if we can see more of it, will teach us about what's going on near the center of our galaxy.
So you're sure the black hole is still there right now? We know that for a fact.
I'm pretty sure that black hole is still there. So, it will take a lot to get rid of it.
And so what does all of this tell us about how much we might not know, and what are we learning about the universe through all of this?
Well, these massive black holes, we think that most galaxies like ours harbor one of these 4 million solar mass black holes, maybe even bigger, at the center of the galaxy. And how these massive black holes are assembled, this is 4 million times the mass of our sun in a space that's about smaller than the distance between the Earth and our sun. So it's a huge amount of material packed in a small space. How do these things live? How do they grow? It tells about the history and evolution of our universe. And you just showed the beautiful picture of a black hole imaged in a distant galaxy by the Event Horizon Telescope. That's seeing the shadow of the black hole against this glowing material that's falling in. It teaches about the nature of gravity. It teaches us, was Einstein right about general relativity and how gravity works? And it teaches us how our universe evolves and grows and where we came from and where we're going.
I didn't think the jury was still out on Einstein's theory of relativity. Hasn't that been proven, or are there still instances where we're not sure whether that is the running theory?
It's been proven pretty well. Observations of merging black holes in gravitational waves have pretty much cemented Einstein's theory as the premier theory of gravity. But there's still some room when we get into really extreme situations that we might see some deviations that might hint about some new physics that we don't know.
Right.
And we don't know how to marry relativity with quantum theory. So we know that relativity is not the ultimate theory of the universe. There's more for us there to learn.
Oh, there's room for another Einstein and another theory. So I'm just curious, though, you said that we don't quite know why this happens. We don't quite know why these gases react this way around the black hole. Are there some theories behind it?
Yes, there could be some theories about why this flaring happened. There could be some material from a star. There's a star called SO2 that passed pretty close to the black hole recently. So perhaps some material was torn off that star and fell into the black hole and caused some flaring. There's been some giant clouds of dusty material that passed near the center of our galaxy that there's evidence that maybe they interacted with the black hole. So maybe this is some material that's been pulled off and fallen into the black hole, causing some flaring. Maybe it's just a clump of material in the disk. I mean, what this tells us, our knowledge of what's going on there isn't complete, and we need more observations to understand what's going on.
All right, fascinating.
Ravi said in the earlier segment, not to play God, and that's really what I wanted to do, wanted to play God. Nietzsche said, if there were gods, how could I bear not to be a god? And that's a line that resonated with the person that I was. Kierkegaard said, if I ask you for a glass of water, even if you bring me a better drink, I'll be indignant just because you didn't give me what I wanted. And that's what I really want. Those are quotations that characterize where I was. And the justification that I had erected to be able to play God was rationalism. I had assumed that faith was blind. I had assumed that reason and faith were contradictory.
One of my professors at graduate school, John Warwick Montgomery, used to say, whenever you get onto a train of thought, make sure to check your ticket to see where it's going to get you off. And these isms have got tickets that have not been checked. The logical outworking of these is systemic contradiction. And when an idea is contradictory, it cannot possibly be true when two statements are mutually exclusive, unconditioned. So we look at humanism, scientism, and look at the strengths of them. What were the nobler sides of those? They're not ill-willed to start with. But if it is taken, let me put it this way. When you move through the isms going back across centuries, from rationalism to empiricism to existentialism and to postmodernism, all of these, the mistake that was made is that in grabbing the finger of one way of interpreting reality, they thought they were grabbing the fist of reality. These were single ways of testing truth.
You're writing about scientism as one of the isms listed here, 7 or 8 that you have. Acquaint us with scientism as it is a god of this world.
The regularity of the universe. The fact that the universe does proceed in patterns, in ways that are regular and scientifically explainable. There's no explanation for that if you take God out of the picture. Why would a random universe produce the sort of regularity that we could look at scientifically? However, you have an explanation of that if you have a God who desired relationship with people, who desired to create people into a stable environment where they could find meaning. Einstein said the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is its comprehensibility. Sure. Well, scientism is, the idea that as science continues to explain things, we no longer have any need for God as an explanation. And last weekend, I was actually on a debate show, a BBC debate show called The Big Questions. And underlying the whole discussion on that show was this assumption that science disproves God. And if you could have seen me, I was just bouncing up and down on the edge of my seat, trying to get the moderator's attention to let me in to say something, because I think that is such a grave misconception. This is what I would have said if they had come to me. When you think about science and God, arguably the two most significant scientific discoveries in all of cosmology in the last 100 years point strongly to God. One, that the universe has a beginning. And if it has a beginning, then there had to be something that got it started, that gave it that beginning. Not only do I think that science doesn't disprove God, but I actually think that only God proves science.
And the Christian is the only one who can put all of these together in rationalism and existentialism and empiricism. The Christian is not against these testing of truth claims. He or she is just making the case that if you want a coherent worldview, then the metaphysical side has to be examined too.